Thank you, Joanna. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
If there's any issues, please do let me know. And I'll be sharing the presentation today. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Aslam Junais. I'm basically the founder and co-founder and brand strategist at Level 8 Brands, which is part of Element 8 Group. And today we are going to have a session called Branding Essentials: How to Build Great Brands That Stand Out. Now, I want to start off this presentation with a complaint. A complaint in the sense that this is something that we get every day from customers who walk inside our agency, and they have this, this consistent complaint. Most of them, they say that we have a brand, we have a business, we've invested a lot of our time, money, and effort into developing this brand. 3 years, 4 years down the line, we've spent an enormous amount of money, and it's really not working for us. So our general intuition is basically show us what you have. We look at examine their brand. When you look at it from the outside, they have an amazingly designed logo. They have a good website. They have everything that is just right when you look at it from an external point of view. When we delve a little bit deeper, we start to find problems or cracks. So essentially, what we find in most cases is that the brand is hollow. So they've taken care of the brand as a startup or as a business from the outside, doing a cosmetic makeover, but inside it's still hollow. It doesn't communicate. It doesn't connect with the audience. It doesn't meet the objectives that it's supposed to meet. So that's really a concern because most people really don't understand what a brand is. Now let's start off by asking us a question: what is a brand? Now there are so many definitions out there. If you Google, you will find so many definitions of what a brand is. The one that I particularly like and that I follow and I, really align myself with is the one from Marty Neumeier. Marty Neumeier is a well-established branding expert. He's a well-known author on branding. He's written numerous books like The Brand Gap, The Brand Flip, Zag, and so on. So many books. And what he says is a brand is not your logo. It is not your slogan. It is not your product. It is not your service. So then the question is, what is a brand? If it is not your logo and it is not your slogan and it is not your product and service, then naturally the question is, then what is a brand? So how he explains it is that brand is somebody's gut feeling about a product or service or organization. It's that perception, that feeling that we have inside when we not just see a brand, when we even hear about a brand. How are they positioned in our minds? What is our general perception about them? So this is what a brand is all about, and this is essentially how we align. I mean, how I align myself, and when I talk to my customers, this is what we want to build. All right, this is that gut feeling that we really want to build. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to establish that gut feeling with your audience, then what you're essentially doing is that you're connecting with them. And this kind of connection is going to be strong, it's going to be deep, and it's going to be long lasting because they're not just connecting with you from the outside. They understand who you are. They know how you're positioned. They know who you're talking, that you're talking directly to them, and you're aligned with their values. So there's a deep connection that forms. Now, today, basically, I want to cover, branding is a very vast topic, but I don't think I will be able to cover all aspects of branding. But I just want to cover three important aspects of how we approach branding. So one is how we need to, the importance of defining a brand properly, why it is important to position it correctly, and how we can express it in the right way. So defining a brand starts with your purpose and vision. So what is a purpose, right? So every brand is out there to make money. Every business is out there to make money. But what is that thing that what is that reason Why do you get up every day? Is it just to make money, or is it something beyond making money? So the purpose of your brand is defined as essentially the reason why you exist beyond making money. It's very important to articulate this as a brand, and so that your people, your audience, even your internal team members, your partners, and your audience are all aligned to this. I'm sure we all know who this guy is, Simon Sinek. You know, there's lots and lots of material content on Simon Sinek's content that we can consume online, especially on YouTube and other social platforms. So he has this very interesting theory called the Golden Circle, and in his book, Start with Why. You know what he says is, people don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it, the reason, right? So it's not just the product or service that they're looking for. It is also the reason, that belief. What does the brand strongly believe in? If you look at examples like Tom, they have a pretty solid reason why they exist, you know. And every time we buy a product, we know that some amount of it is going for a cause. That there is an impact that they're making as a brand. So people don't just buy what you do; they buy why you do it. It's a very interesting book, and if you're from a branding background, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, I would strongly recommend reading this book. Just to highlight how this works. Now, it's okay to say, you know, every brand, uh, a brand is not about what you do; it's about why you do it. Just to give you a small example, let's talk about two beauty brands, okay? Beauty brand A and beauty brand B. So now beauty brand A starts by saying that, you know, we have this amazing range of products. You know, we have this new collection that is totally awesome, made of this amazing material. It's sustainable. It is, you know, it is skin friendly, you know, blah, 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 blah. And we have the best people making this product. We have our research labs with the greatest technicians working on these products. And that's it, right? Beauty brand B starts by saying that we are a brand, the reason why we exist is to make everyone feel special. Every woman feel special. And to enable this, you know, we hire the best people, the best minds on the planet to make the most amazing products. And we do have, you know, this range of products and this collection and so on. So the difference that you can see here is beauty brand A is talking about from a more external perspective, whereas the brand B is talking more from the inside out. So what happens? What is the difference? So in essence, what brand A is doing is brand A is talking the same as what brand C, D, E, and F, and G, everybody else is talking. What happens? It just adds to the noise. You cannot stand out. You're just another cosmetic brand talking about your products and your services, and that's it. There's no essence. There's nothing. There's no why. So that makes a lot of difference when it comes to brands. This is the brand purpose statement of Tesla: to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, so that together we can save our planet. Now, here, if you look at this, they don't talk about electric cars. They don't talk about building, you know, the fastest car on the planet. They're talking about sustainable energy. They're talking about saving the planet. And that's a huge purpose. And everything that Tesla gets into will be aligned to their purpose. For example, they do solar panels for homes, which is again aligned to their purpose as a brand. So purpose not only is for your customers, as a brand, purpose helps you to define yourself, to chart a path forward. It is in essence your North Star, your direction on how to take your brand. Any decision that you make as a brand will depend on you will always go back and check, and ask yourself, is it aligned to my brand purpose? So once we define the purpose and values of the purpose and vision of the brand, the next step is essentially to define the values. Now, I don't know how many of you cook, but for those who do cook, you know that the importance of using the right ingredients in the right amount, in the right way, in the right consistency to get the right output, right? So similarly, brand values are essentially the foundation upon which your brand is going to be built. This is crucial. Even internally, when you look at your team members, to build a strong brand culture, brand values are critical. And if you can get your employees aligned to your brand values as a brand, core values as a brand, you can be sure that they will stick on for a long time. They will become your brand ambassadors. They will talk about you passionately, and this is what every brand wants. This is Howard Schultz, former CEO of Starbucks. So what he says is that if people believe they share values with a company, they will stay loyal to the brand. Coming back to the previous example, now, if I'm a person who really believes in sustainability and saving the planet, then of course, Tesla is a natural choice because as a brand, they're aligned to my beliefs. So it's really important to define your brand values clearly and powerfully. The next step is to position your brand. Now we know that the first step that we need to take is to define the brand. And once we define it clearly, the purpose of your brand, the vision, and the values, the next is positioning your brand. Now, the question is, what is positioning? Now, if you go to a business person, a business consultant, they will take a big whiteboard, they will draw a chart, they will start plotting points with you on there, with your competition on there, where you stand, what are your advantages, what are your disadvantages. But in essence, when it comes to branding, positioning is all about occupying a space in the minds of your consumer. This is very important to understand. This is Al Ries. He's basically also known as the father of positioning. He has this beautiful book called "Positioning: The Battleground for Your Mind." The battle for your mind. It's a very old book, but some of what he says still holds true to this day. So what he says is that positioning is not what you do to a product; it is what you do to the mind of the prospect. So, in essence, it is not just about drawing a chart and plotting a couple of dots in there. It is finding out ways in which you can own a space in the minds of your consumer. Just to give you a small example, right? We always remember the first person on the moon, the fastest person on Earth, the best, the biggest, the tallest, the most famous. But we rarely remember the second, or who's the second fastest person, who's the second person on the moon. So that is because this position is already taken, and that is what is occupied in our minds. So if for a brand, if it wants to own a position, it needs to own a category. Is everything okay so far? Am I clear? I heard a noise. Is it getting?
No, it's
Joanna?
absolutely clear. No problem at all. Yeah.
All right. Okay, fine. All right. So that is in essence what positioning about. I'm just covering these concepts very briefly. When you delve deeper, each one is a humongous topic that we need to delve deeper and understand it more better. I'm just covering the basics so that you understand, from a very broad perspective on what these things are. And the next stage is to express your brand. And expression starts with the promise. This is Mukhtar Hind. He's a former CEO of Coca-Cola. So what he says is a brand is a promise. A good promise is a good brand is a promise kept. So it's just not enough to make a promise as a brand. Everybody can make promise. We promise to take care of you. We promise to do this. We promise to do that. But if you really want to establish that trust and credibility, you need to keep that promise. You need to ensure that you stick to your word. And this is, as a brand, this is incredibly important. Now, And another example, like, when we go into a supermarket, right? If you go into a hypermarket these days, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of SKUs and products lined up on either sides of the aisle, right? Each brand is calling you, come on, buy me, buy me, buy me. But you are smart, right? You take your shopping trolley, you go to the right spot, you pick the right product, put it into your basket, and you check out. So that's because you've already formed that connection. You know which brand. And sometimes if you know that if you don't get the right products on the shopping list, you know what's going to happen when you get home, right? So that is brand affinity and brand connection. That's because a product has delivered its promise and we really trust and believe in that brand. So what does sticking to your promise lead to? It leads to trust. Brands like Apple, right? They own trust of millions of people, and it's quite evident. Every time they launch a new product, there's a huge crowd outside their store waiting to buy the brand. So they haven't even seen the product. They haven't even, but there's a huge crowd waiting just to get their hands on it, and they're so excited simply because they believe in the brand. They trust the brand Apple. They know that if it is Apple that's bringing out the product, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be packed with technology. They're going to offer the right kind of support. They will ensure my privacy. They really believe in the brand. And that is what trust will do. And in branding, what does trust mean? Trust is essentially reliability and delight. Reliability meaning the fact that you're able to consistently deliver over and over again the same experience. And delight is the over and above that you go to ensure your customers are happy. The small things that you do, it could even be a small card in your packaging, a very personalized message from the founder, right? So that's delight. And if when we talk about customer delight, there's no other brand that we can talk about other than, more than Zappos, which is they have so many incredible stories of customer delight. And what does that lead to? So now you made a promise, you kept that promise, you've built trust, and trust through reliability and offering delight. What does that lead to? That leads to loyalty. So as a consumer, you keep going back to the store to get the same product, it's the same brand, and you keep connecting with them. Not just that, you start talking about the brand to your friends and family members. You start becoming advocates of the brand. You start openly talking about them on social media platforms. And as a brand, there's nothing bigger than this. There's no amount of advertising that can match a personal word of mouth recommendation. So building brand advocates through loyalty is, if you can do that as a brand, you've achieved a big goal in your branding and marketing efforts. Another way to express is through stories. Now, as humans, ever since the caveman, we've all listened to stories. We've seen these, as children, we've grown up listening to stories. Even the movies that we watch these days, right? There's a hero, there's a challenge that comes about. Probably everything is going ahead normally, and then somebody kidnaps the child, and then everything goes. There's a whole chaos. It's chaos, and then finally the hero comes and saves the day. So we like conflicts, we like challenges, and how we overcome challenges are the way we tell powerful stories. And powerful stories are important when it comes to a brand. Like I said, there are so many stories when it comes to this brand, Zappos, which is an e-commerce shoe brand. Unfortunately, the founder died recently. But if you read this book, Delivering Happiness, so there's a lot of stories about what the Zappos stands. They've actually built a culture around customer delight and storytelling. So what they say is that in Zappos, if you're a customer service agent and you're able to keep the customer on the call for X number of hours, you get incentives, and the maximum number of maximum amount of hours that a customer service agent has kept a customer online on the call is, I think, 10 to 12 hours. So that shows a long way of how much they care about, that delight factor. And there's another story where a staff actually took a plane to deliver a product to a customer who was having a wedding the next day. So these are small stories, but it goes a long way in telling us what the brand is all about, what they value, right? What is the purpose, the reason why they exist. And later on, it was sold to Amazon for millions of dollars. We also express the brand through persona or personality. Now, as human beings, we are always attracted to personalities, pleasant personalities, friendly personalities. There are different types of personalities. This is Carol Pearson. She's authored a wonderful book called The Hero and the Outlaw. In this book, she basically outlines 12 different archetypes. And these are not only the 12 archetypes, but generally brands fall under these 12 archetypes. And to give you a small example, right from the hero archetype to the everyman, to the magician, to the outlaw, there are 12 different archetypes. Just to give you an example, now when you look at a brand like Disney, it falls under the magician archetype. And magician archetype is all about mystery, is all about magic. It is all about the creative innovation and delight. It is all about that feeling that you get. I mean, if when you watch a Disney movie, I think it's magical. You say it's magical, right? And that is what it's all about. So they've positioned Disney as under the magical archetype. And finally, we also, when it comes to expressing the brand, it is also about the look and feel part of your brand. So look and feel part includes your logo, your colors, your websites, all the brand touch points, anything a customer gets in touch with your brand. Like it could be, your brochure, your materials, your communication, anything that a customer gets in touch with in terms of your brand comes under the look and feel part of the brand. So this is where we actually express your logo, your colors, your typeface, the design elements, the graphic elements, and so on. So in essence, people ignore this and they go straight to the look and feel part of the brand. When you're starting as a startup, when you're setting up a company, you really want to focus on getting a logo. You have a small budget. You want to focus on getting a logo, a website done, a brochure done, and your business card done, and let's start the process. But when you look at the bigger picture, when you step back, when you look at 3 years down the line, you must have invested a significant amount of money recruiting people, spending on ads, so SEO, and you must have spent not just money, your time, effort into promoting and establishing the brand, and then you come back and say that it's really not working for me. It's simply because you haven't focused on the right things. So it's really important to start with looking at the brand inside out rather than from the outside. Because if you look at it from the outside, if you start with the design process, you're just looking at the look and feel part of the brand, and you're ignoring a very big, crucial chunk of the brand, which is the brand core, which is what we just discussed. So right from defining it clearly, positioning it correctly in the market, and articulating it very powerfully through expression, and then coming to the look and feel part of the brand. So this is, in essence, how we build a great brand. So it was a short presentation, but I hope I was clear. If there's any questions anybody would like to ask.
Yeah, so guys, if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat. or if you'd like to, just unmute and ask a question, that's absolutely fine as well. Let me just get started. Junais, so if someone just wants to kind of get started in this field of branding, and it's a student or a recent graduate, all of this is quite new. What would be the best way to get started?
See, first, I get this question a lot, and what do I need to do to get started? When I was growing up, there was nobody to advise me on how to go about, and then I spent years and years of my time doing a lot of different things, and finally I ended up here. But from a very young age, I was very passionate about design. So I've come to branding and brand strategy from a design background. So to do brand strategy and branding, you don't necessarily need to be from a design background. You just need to have a good understanding of brand and experience working with brands. So I would suggest a good place to start with is looking at seeing if there are the right courses available. I don't know if there are any specific brand related courses out there, but that would be a good start. Another thing is that courses are just a small part of the story. It's like you do the course, you get the certification, but that's it. You need practical experience.
Right. Yeah.
Find a mentor, work with them very closely, understand the process, get experience, because every business. I've been doing this for almost 25 years. Every time I come across a brand, it's a unique problem. It's something totally different that I haven't worked on before, and it's challenging. But what happens is all the experience that I've gained over the years helps me in basically navigating through this problem and solving it. And a big part of this is spending time with the customers as well, understanding their problem, defining it clearly. We have a process internally where we actually run the workshops and understand this in more detail. And of course, reading. You need to read as much as you can. There are plenty of books out there, and I think when I say read, I don't necessarily mean go online and type out what is branding and read that, because most of the information that pops up on the first page of Google is not actually relevant information. It's just this. It's just basically someone doing content management. They're not experts in the industry. If you really want to read, there are plenty of books out there, specifically from Marty Neumeyer, David Archer. He's a father of modern branding. He's written Al Rees. These are authorities in branding. So when you read their book and understand, what they talk about, it really goes a long way in establishing your knowledge base and then making sure that you can hit the right notes. And also, I listen to a lot of podcasts, talk. I'm constantly updating myself, and that goes a long way in understanding a lot about the brand, looking at case studies, doing research. All this helps.
Amazing. So there's a little bit of like learning every step of the way that you just have to continue to do.
Yes,
And you have to kind of pick up new things as and when you find them and add them to your toolkit.
absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. So Shreya asks a question. So after spending so many years in branding, is it still easy for you to distinguish between brands, even if some of them are from a similar niche, they look similar?
That's a very good question. Every time I approach, even now when I work on a branding project, I get very excited because I'm really passionate about it. For me, it's about solving a problem rather than just working on the design. We have a very strong design team in house who can come up with amazing ideas. But then again, before we get into the design process, we need to define the brand correctly. And for me, that is the most exciting part, talking to them, understanding what their needs are. Sometimes coming from a design background, I have the inclination to tell clients, this is what is right for you. But I think that's the wrong approach. I think it's all about listening to them, listening to what they have to say, understanding what their problems are, what are the challenges they're facing. And every time, you come across new project, even today, every project that we take is a very exciting. Because of so many years being in the brand, being in the branding business, I kind of can understand, how to clarify the segments and the industries. We have a process in place, and it's all about, like I said, it's all about asking the questions. If you ask the right questions, you get the right answers, and it just makes your process more easier. And with the experience that you've gained over the years, it just makes it more, more effortless. So that's what I can say to that.
Right. Okay. Zoha has a question. So if you want to just unmute and ask, that's fine.
Sure, thank you very much, and great presentation, Aslam. It was really insightful. I loved it, and even the creative design of it was really good. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a bit bad. I'm actually sick a bit right now. So my question was, I have a friend who has an e-commerce store, and so I'm currently working on that with him. The store's name is Golf Cart. So I want to ask you, how much does a name of a brand, like how much does it matter when it comes to branding? Because as a customer, if you hear a name of a brand, it needs to stick with you, right? And then you need to resonate with it. So if it's a name that you can't resonate with, if you can't even remember, like the first time when he told me that name, it took I had to ask the name like 5 times before I could remember it, because it didn't stick in my brain. So what would you say, like how much does a name matters when it comes to branding?
Thank you, Zoa. And I think you were pretty clear in your voice, I think. And thank you for the question. That is an incredibly important question, naming. And naming is a big part of branding as well. And when it comes to naming, it's a whole totally different discipline altogether. So, like you said, I think you have a good understanding of why naming is so important, because you've touched upon a couple of points in there as well. So how the name sounds is very important, because it, like you said, it has to stick. If it doesn't stick, people won't remember it. It has to be clear. Like Facebook, although it's pretty simple, it's straightforward. It's very easy to understand. It's very easy to remember. And the phonics, some people come up with all these complex names. They combine things, and they come up with this complex name. And then every time you pronounce that name, you also have to end up spelling it out, because either it doesn't sound clear. So even in this, in your case, GAF card, the natural question is, how do you spell it? So if a name has that issue, I think you need to go back to the drawing board, think about it, because the phonics, the syllables, how many syllables does a name have? All these are incredibly important in making it memorable. The more simpler the name is, the more better. And again, when it comes to naming, there are a lot of other considerations. Which market is the brand going to be present in? Because naming has a lot of other implications as well. Is it culturally aligned? Is it aligned to the culture? Does it have any other meanings? Checking the availability of the name, not just the domain name. Is the brand registered elsewhere? What kind of business are they into? Is there any other meaning for that same word in any other languages? So all these are incredibly important. So when you look at all these aspects, because like I said, it's a totally different discipline altogether. And when we do the naming process, it's like doing a whole workshop with them, understanding it clearly. We're right now working on a project for the ministry where we have to come up with a name and the design for an online platform, which is a purchasing platform online. So that is something that we're working on. But like you said, Zoa, you've nailed it correctly. It needs to be memorable. It needs to be easy to understand every time you spell it. There shouldn't be a case where you spell out the name and then, you say the name and then you spell it out for them, which doesn't serve the purpose. So I hope I've been able to clarify your
Thank you
query.
very much. Yes, you did
Yeah,
answer it very well. And I
yeah.
have another question. Now, since you have been in the industry for a very long time and you've definitely faced a lot of scenarios, I want to ask, if it's a new store, if it's a new brand, and you have the first customers who are coming in. Now, you told in your presentation about trust, loyalty, and all of that. But what if
Mhm.
it's a new customer and they're looking at your brand for the first time? So, what are the factors of branding that the customers will resonate most with? And how do you turn a hollow brand as your digital agency when a hollow brand comes to you, how do you turn it into one that connects with the customers, especially when it's not your brand and you're meeting them for the first time?
Mhm. All right. So there are two parts of the question. I'll address the first part. So how do you create that experience when if it is a new brand and a new customer coming in? So a brand, so for a customer to come in a store, he has to go through a certain journey, right? So when you look at the journey, there's actually an I think 9-step process where you build the awareness and then you build the engagement and then you get the customer to visit your store and then he experiences the brand, he experiences the product, and then he starts coming back again for the product, and then he starts recommending your brand to others. So that's advocacy, and then he becomes active ambassadors of your brand. Like he starts shouting about your brand at the top of his lungs on social media and so on. So this is essentially the journey of the customer. So understanding this journey, who's your customer, how are they going to take this journey is important. Once you understand how this journey is going to, who your customer and how we're going to map this journey, the next thing is what are the brand touch points that they're going to come in touch with. So when I don't know if it is an online store or is a retail store you're talking about, but
Yes, online store.
sorry, online store, right? So they must have heard about your brand somewhere, either on Google search or social media and stuff like that. So that is a brand touch point. And from that moment onwards, that excitement, that you build, the awareness that you build, brand awareness you build, the messaging that you go, that the effort that you put into the messaging of the brand is incredibly important. This makes a remarkable difference in the way the customer behaves when they come. And one thing I would like to add is that the experience should be consistent and uniform. So you shouldn't have, on social media, a different kind of experience. And when they come to the store, you have a very not so user-friendly experience. UI UX is all messed up, and they have a very bad experience because that's going to impact your brand. So mapping these brand touch point, mapping the customer journey, and then developing brand touch points uh, with the right kind of messaging is important. And so there, you start thinking about the look and feel part of the brand as well, in terms of the colors, in terms of the consistency, in the fonts, typography, and so on. So this is basically how you approach it and how you ensure that the experience is consistent right from uh, the moment that they hear about your brand to spending, probably coming to your website, to purchasing a product, to coming back for more purchases, to recommending your brand to their friends and family. And when it comes to e-commerce, it's a very saturated market out there. There's so many portals, and we get inquiries every day of a new e-commerce startup business. Everybody wants to do e-commerce, but unless you have something very unique, it's like uh, the example I gave you about the two beauty brands. Unless you're able to position yourself correctly and articulate yourself powerfully and define yourself in a very nice way, which differentiates you from your competition, you're just going to be part of the noise. And what happens when you become part of the noise is that you end up spending a lot of your time, money, and effort into developing this beautiful portal, but then it doesn't really serve the purpose. What was the second question, Zohan?
So thank you for answering that. The
Yeah.
second question was that how do you change a hollow brand and turn it into one that? Sorry, just a second. Let me pull out the question. Yeah, so how do you turn a hollow brand and turn it into one which connects with the customers, especially when it's not your brand and it's a new one, like it's like you're working on it for the first time. So you did answer by saying that you have meetings with them, understanding the competition. Are there any other points that you would like to add?
I've just briefly touched upon this, but it's a very intensive process where we have, the discovery process, and we have workshop with the stakeholders, and we have insights of what we understood from these workshops. We have the research phase where our team sits down, looks at a lot of aspects of the brand, and then basically it's a very iterative process. We sit down with the client, we tell them this is how we perceive the brand. this is a possible. We give them different directions on how we can take the brand. And then it's a very, like I said, it's a very iterative process. We need client feedback, client input. It's a lot of engagement. And then finally, it comes down to actually finalizing what would work. And then even when you launch the brand, even after you launch the brand, it's not just, it doesn't just end with, giving them a brand. We need to really test it out. Even after you launch the brand, you may find gaps. No matter how much effort you put in as an agency or as from the client side, you may find there are gaps. So it's all about understanding, identifying these gaps and closing these gaps once you launch the brand as quickly as possible, so that in essence, you have a very effective brand in a very short period of time, and it achieves the results that you set out to achieve.
Thank you very much, Aslam. You have been great, and I would definitely
Thank
like
you.
to connect with you on LinkedIn.
Sure. Great. Anytime.
Right. So Leah's got a question. We learn from failure in the same way we learn from success. What's a surefire way for a brand to fail?
So like I said, when what you've seen today is ingredients into creating how to make a great brand. So like I said, if you're into cooking, if you don't put in the right ingredients, if you don't, it's not just about putting in the right ingredients. If you don't do it in the proper manner, in the proper sequence, in the right amounts, it is a recipe for disaster. So this is basically from the experience, looking at talking to clients, understanding brands. I think not just identifying and not just putting in the right ingredients, but also doing it in the right sequence, in the right amount, and client engagement, putting it all together in the right format. I think this is the way to ensure success.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? You guys can drop it in the chat or unmute. This is probably going to be the last one. So anyone wants to? Right. Okay. I guess there are no more questions, which is good.
All right.
Thank you so much for. Oh, there is one more question. Sorry. Tanvir has a question. A lot of big brands are redoing their logos, making them not only simple, but how do the small companies do that, given that they have a smaller budget?
Very, very nice question. This is something that we face every day from clients. We don't have the right budget. So this is where we need to look at the bigger picture, right? So as a startup, you have a lot of challenges going into starting up the business. You have limited capital, and you're struggling to raise funds probably. And then you don't really feel that all this is necessary. You just want to start off with the beautiful logo and probably a website and a brochure and get things going. But then when you look at the bigger picture, when you step back, it's not just this investment that you're going to make. You always have to look at the bigger picture and the investment, time, effort, and money that you really need to put in, the first year, the second year, and third year. And all this while you're promoting something that is not complete. Like I said, it is hollow from the inside. It may look beautiful from the outside, but it's not positioned correctly. It is not defined properly. And then what happens is, you when you look at the bigger picture, you're going to run into a bigger loss, probably shut down the business. Because I've come across a lot of people who've experienced this. They start the business, they have investments, they even some of them do have investments, but they really don't understand the need to do this in a proper format. And they think that we can have a logo, we can have a brochure, we can have a website, and we can launch the brand, and then we'll do some SEO, and we'll do some social media, and we can get it right. But it is guaranteed that you'll have limited success. I wouldn't say everything fails, but in general, it is a recipe for disaster. And when you look at the bigger picture, you're running into bigger losses. So might as well, whatever money you have, might as well invest it in doing it properly, rather than doing it in something that doesn't work. So it's not just me saying that, it's a proven method. If you ask any branding expert, this is exactly the same answer that they're going to tell you.
All right, amazing. So thank you so much, Junais, for being here, for answering some of these extremely big questions and just simplifying it, making it easy for everyone to understand. Um, it's been super interactive. Thank you so much for being here, and we really hope to see you in the future because I feel like there's a lot for us to learn from a branding point of view, and there's not a lot of education around these specific concepts. So thank you once again from all of the apprentices and from the Qureos team. And we really hope to see you back here soon.
Thank you, Joanna. You've been a great host, and it was wonderful associating with Qureos. And I hope we can partner again. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, they can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always available.
Amazing. Thank you guys for being here this evening. I think we're going to wrap it up. I will share the recording with all of you and hope to see you on future cohorts and future webinars very soon. Thank you and have a good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. And thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.